Nicky is an attractive homeless man who is also a serial womanizer. He achieves his dreams by crashing with rich women. As he gets older and a lot of women get involved, his life takes a messy turn. Los Angeles has always been the perfect city for Nicky. He grew up knowing that he's too good looking and will turn out to be a heartbreaker. He first understood it when he slept with his mother's friend, and her husband found out. He came to Los Angeles with too many dreams of living an easy life while driving a sports car. He claims he always knew he could live a luxurious life using his charm and lying skills. And for him, most of it comes true. As he walks to a club, he gains an easy entry and starts looking around. He is surrounded by women he has already been involved with, some of whom hate his guts. But on this night, he's not looking for another attractive young woman. He needs someone who can change the game for him. He approaches the woman who is wearing branded clothes and surely drives a Mercedes. He has done this a lot of times, so he knows the best pickup line is simply asking for her name. It works on Samantha, who briefly discusses what she had for dinner. He guesses she's a bad driver and tries to find excuses to drop her home. She admits she finds him cute, but doesn't want him to come home with her. After a little more pestering from his side to confirm whether she's single, she finally gives in and lets him kiss her. He knows he's supposed to act goofy in the car by rolling his windows down to put her at ease. He is clearly impressed by her house, but pretends like it's not a big deal. His focus is clear, and he casually climbs upstairs to sit on her bed. He knows she will fall for his confidence, and is very strategic in bed too. It's all about thinking long-term for him. This is why he makes sure the sex is good enough and not great, so she craves more later. When she tries to wake him up before work, he knows it's important to keep pretending to be asleep. She eventually falls for his cuteness and leaves her card with him so he can buy breakfast. He asks the delivery guy to keep her card on file and enjoys a swim in the morning. The next step is to cook her dinner, even if it's bad, because he knows women appreciate effort. This entire game for him is based on a point system. Through flowers and orgasms, he knows he can win just enough points to gain her trust. When she's back, he's busy cooking and asks her to sit comfortably while he gets her wine. He is homeless and unreliable, but his job is to not let her know that. He also strategically keeps his phone in front of her, so she knows he has offers from other women. She's very curious about what he does for work, but all his answers are very vague. He smoothly switches the topic to how he wants to give her his full attention during dinner. This starts a streak of him pleasuring her in every way he knows, so he can find a way to stay in the house. She takes him shopping, and he even sneaks into her friend's circle as her date. When he knows he has collected enough points to win her trust, he refuses to go to New York with her for a few days. But he's ready to stay at the house and wait for her to come back. He drops her off at the airport with the promise of picking her up on Thursday morning. He's finally free to call her place his home, and throws a party. His friend Harry is upset, because he froze up in front of a girl he likes. Nicky knows it's because he cares too much. He asks him to piss her off instead, so that his apology later makes him come off as a sensitive guy. When a girl from his past, Helen, arrives at the party, Nicky is sure she will blow his cover, since she knows this is not his house. But she's very drunk and is more interested in the swimming pool. Nicky urges Harry to take her away from the party, even if he wants to stay back and meet a girl. Christina walks up to Nicky to ask for a tour of the house, which conveniently ends in the bedroom. He keeps discussing what it's like for her to be a cheerleader as he gets closer to her. Harry comes back after a horrible ride with Helen, who tried to unzip his pants while he was driving. She also asked if Nicky used to bring girls to her house back in the day. Like a good friend, Harry didn't say anything, but feels very confused about the appropriate response to such questions. Nicky still thinks Harry should have slept with Helen, and offers him the spare bedroom for the night. He also asks Harry to not let him mess up this thing with Samantha, since he knows her house is amazing. As he apologizes to the maid for the mess the next day and enjoys the pool, he decides to call Samantha back. She wonders why he didn't pick up any calls at night, but he conveniently changes the topic to her work. Some of her friends are coming over on Thursday night, and she wants Nicky to be free for her. He calls Emily over to watch football with him, but she's more interested in the food. Nicky chooses to ignore it when she tells him she has started a band with someone. He only pays attention when she asks about whose house this is. She has known Nicky for a long time, and wants him to understand his lies won't work on her. But she's curious to know what he tells the women he sleeps with, so they let him stay. She thinks it's safe to reveal his secret to her, since she's not interested in him. But Nicky knows when a woman mentions something like this, she's usually very interested. He pretends to ignore her as she asks more questions about the house, but comes closer to admitting he wants to sleep with her. Emily tries to resist, because he has used her many times without any reciprocation. At this point in life, she wants a more emotional response from him. But Nicky is good at this game, and pretends to be upset that she doesn't believe he misses her. As expected, she comes back for more, and asks if he has a bathtub they can share. He knows he'll say anything to please women when he's horny, but after he's done, he wants them to get away from him. This applies with Emily too, and he doesn't want to engage when she suggests they should explore what they have. He somehow gets away with it by claiming he doesn't want to pretend, and manages to drop her off. Nikki is watching football again with Christina when Samantha silently sneaks into the room. She catches him red-handed and asks Christina to leave. Nikki tries to justify what she saw by claiming an innocent game led to something else. But Samantha knows there's more to the story, since her maid also informed her about the party he held the other day. Showing absolutely no remorse, Nikki takes a stand and feels like she can't question him, since they haven't had a proper relationship talk yet. She feels bad about trusting him and asks him to leave the house. He still manages to be charming with her. He explains how they can't be friends with benefits if he is unable to drive to her house and has no place to live. This works on Samantha, and soon enough, they're back to being passionate with each other again. He finds Heather at a coffee house, who is only interested in her work and seems to be immune to his charms. She dismisses all his efforts to flirt with her, and makes it clear she's not interested. The delivery guy from before tries to strike up a conversation with Nikki, but he doesn't understand why nothing is working on Heather. Instead of paying the bill, he leaves his number for her. Heather turns up at Samantha's place to ask for her money. She claims she got the address from the delivery guy, and has no interest in calling him. Every attempt of his to take her to the bedroom fails, and she just snatches her money and leaves. Samantha tries very hard to seduce him, but Nikki feels lost and tries to get lemonade instead. While he's goofing around with Harry in the car, he asks for his help with Heather. Nikki knows she has seen the house, so now his plan is to make sure she is convinced he is rich and important. He dresses up well and reaches the coffee house with Harry the next day. While trying to make a fake phone call in front of Heather, he gets a name wrong. When his phone also rings when he's apparently already on a call, she easily calls his bluff. While Harry thinks it's karma, she also comes over to let him know his Mercedes is getting a ticket. He even tries to flirt with the meter maid and compliments her hands. When he convinces her to spin for him, Heather watches from the window and finds it hilarious. He still gets the ticket, but manages to impress Heather, who finally gives him her number. As Samantha tries to enjoy that night in bed, Nikki feels different and is unable to perform. He calls Heather right after, but she's busy and insists she will call back. Samantha watches him talking on the phone, but decides to not engage. Nikki doesn't understand why Heather hasn't called him back in 12 hours. He claims he really likes her, which Harry doesn't believe. He makes fun of his clothes smelling weird after Harry did his laundry. Harry doesn't appreciate the humor and asks him to find another place to store his stuff, if he's always so ungrateful. Nikki knows he has offended him, so he apologizes and leaves. When he's chilling at Samantha's place, Heather calls him back to set up a dinner date. When she turns up late, he jokes about being disappointed, but eases into the conversation soon enough. She gets a call from someone who sounds like a possessive partner. She apologizes, but she needs to leave right away. He chases her outside to demand an explanation, but she doesn't have a proper answer for where she's going, and asks him to call her. Samantha can tell something is wrong with Nikki, and directly asks who he is sleeping with. She doesn't believe it when he denies it, and asks him to drive her to the hospital. She has to stay there for a day, and refuses to let him ask questions about it. When he's trying to enjoy a peaceful dinner, he gets a text asking if he's alone. He follows a noise to find Heather already in the pool, who is excited about how great his place is. He seems confused, since he doesn't understand why she suddenly left dinner the other day. It also doesn't make sense that she randomly turned up at his place. He is sure she has a boyfriend, but she seems hesitant to reveal anything. She feels like they hardly know each other, but she eventually warms up to him enough to share her story. She reveals she had to leave early due to her brother's illness, who is only 17 and needs her a lot. Nikki is as sympathetic as he can be, and tries his best to comfort her as she cries. When they're in bed, he starts sharing random and intimate details about himself. She claims she really likes him, but wants to take things slow. Instead of sleeping with her, he agrees to just hold her that night. The next morning, he needs to move her car for street cleaning, and informs her about it while she's asleep. He notices a cigar and other items in the car that make him realize something. He wakes her up in anger, since he knows she has a boyfriend. When she gets dressed, she wonders how he actually believed someone who waits tables would be able to afford that car. He's just heard about being lied to, and doesn't want to engage. When he goes to pick Samantha up from the hospital, he learns that she got a vaginal rejuvenation. The male nurse explains that no penetration is allowed for 5 days, but thinks it'll be worth the wait. Nikki takes care of her and gives her medicine. But he's back at the club that night to pick up another woman. Samantha is very pissed the next morning that he didn't return her calls the whole night. He has messed up so many times that his apologies don't mean anything. He runs to the room, knowing this won't work anymore, and she follows him. She feels bad he shows no regret for how he treats her. She even starts throwing all the expensive stuff she got him, so he can take it away. He claims he doesn't want any of that, and just wants to talk. But Samantha is hurt now, and gives him a message as a parting gift. She wants him to know he's getting older and losing his looks. Since he's neither smart nor funny, all he has to offer is his charm and body. She's sure he will suffer like the rest of them when he goes out in the world. She also slaps him in frustration, and Nikki waits till she is done. When she's calmer, she thinks it can work out, and rushes to the kitchen to make him breakfast. But Nikki has prepared his bags and is sure he's leaving. He doesn't know where he will go, but is willing to take the risk to get out of there. As his phone also starts ringing, Samantha gets jealous about his affairs and throws it in the pool. He roams around the street and tries to knock on Harry's door, but there's no response. When he tries Emily's house, she first wants to know if he likes anything about her. He does his best to compliment her, but makes it about himself again by claiming she makes him a better person. Emily already knows how selfish he is. She asks why he never shows interest in her life, if he's so concerned. She thinks he's just wasting everyone's time, and is sure he's afraid of intimacy. This triggers him, and he explains that he will be intimate when he finds the right person. He still tries to stay with her after this, but Emily makes it clear that she only entertained him because she was attracted to him. She doesn't feel anything for him, and thinks he's not even interesting. Before shutting the door on him, she calls him a whore, since he sleeps with women to get things. Nicky reaches a strip club to talk to Harry, and meets his friend Sean. He feels very uncomfortable among all the strippers, and tries his best to strike up a conversation with Harry. When Sean starts throwing cash at a woman, and commands her to do things for him, Nicky finds it very disrespectful. When Sean eventually calls her a whore, Nicky gets angrier, and punches him. When he tries to explain how crass Sean was acting, Harry points out how Nicky is the one who objectifies women the most. They get into an argument about Nicky only going for women who have the right house or car, and Harry asks him to leave. He decides to go to the same club where he found Samantha, but is denied entry that day. Things get worse for him, as he has nowhere to go. Even Harry throws all of his stuff out of his house. He tries to sell some things, but hardly gets any money for them. He manages to get a cheap motel. He assures his mother, Terry, on call that he's doing well. But due to his vague descriptions about his upcoming projects and opportunities, she doesn't believe him. Terry keeps the phone on him, and doesn't pick up when he calls back. He feels disappointed about how his life turned out, after everything he imagined. He finds his way to another pool party, where he tries to flirt with an older woman. When Heather spots him there, he gets conscious and dives into the pool. Heather strikes up a conversation with the woman and soon follows him. He apologizes for how he behaved with her earlier, but he still thinks it's not cool of her to try and sabotage what he's trying to do. She realizes they're more similar than he was letting on. She can even see he's getting desperate. He doesn't have to pretend with her anymore, and shares that he's about to get evicted from his motel, and has nothing after selling his stuff. While they're swimming, the woman asks him to join her in her suite. But Heather stands up for him, and offers to take care of him herself. She brings him to a car she also tricked a salesman into giving her. They reach her place, and learn that her roommate is a pothead who prefers to stay inside. They discuss how both the expensive car people they were trying to seduce didn't last, for different reasons. But she still has some men she's dating for money, and goes on a date with one of them that night. When she's back and enjoying wine with Nicky, she gets a message from a friend telling her about an event that night. Her friend knows that the video game billionaire, Douglas Dukes, will be at the party that night, and she has put Heather on the list. At the party, Nicky spots Douglas and they both eye him. They drink to causing trouble, and he starts explaining his strategy. He asks Heather to laugh randomly, which gets Douglas to notice her. She's impressed with Nicky's tactics, and asks for his next move. He takes her to the floor for a sensual dance, which makes Douglas notice her more. He stops right when she could crash into him by mistake. He also watches as Douglas finds her alone at the bar and starts talking to her. From his experience, he has realized that a woman needs to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince. But he also knows the frogs never stand a chance in that city. As they leave, he asks for his cut for helping her, and she claims to be offended he's sounding like a pimp. At home, she gets him a lot of blankets and sheets for the couch. She clarifies that she's not offering her bed, since she doesn't want him to get the wrong idea. But he takes that as encouragement, and strips before entering her room. He claims he's only there because the couch is uncomfortable, and promises to stay away from her. She understands his tactics very well, and tries to leave the room to take the couch. He asks her to not be afraid, and claims they're both adults who can keep their distance. But when she gives in, he tries to brush his foot against her to flirt. He even tickles her while striking up a conversation, all the while claiming he's not trying to seduce her. When he gets close enough, she thinks it's a bad idea. But he feels determined to kiss her, and she eventually gives in and they spend the night together. She takes him out to dinner at a fancy place, and admits that everything she told him before was a lie about her brother. As he starts teasing her, a woman approaches him to ask if he remembers her name. Since he clearly doesn't, she makes a comment and walks off. Heather asks him to not feel sorry about this encounter, because the woman was clearly very rude. Since they don't have any money, she gives him a piece he needs to chew into his food. When he spits it out, Heather calls the waiter and claims she doesn't want to cause a scene. Claiming to do a favor for him, they leave silently without paying for their food. They run to the beach and realize they love spending time with each other. At her place, she kisses him before leaving, but he thinks something is suspicious when she gets in the car. While Nicky is still asleep, Heather quietly receives a package she wants to hide from Nicky. She brushes off all the rose petals that fall from it, while making sure she doesn't disturb him. He finds her looking upset and asks her about it. He learns that she just broke up with her rich fiancé, who owns the New York Rangers. Her concern confuses him more, and he starts asking a lot of questions about what's happening between them. She admits she only broke up with him because she has realized she loves Nikki. When he asks if she's faking that too, she thinks there's no reason for her to lie, since he doesn't have any money or a job. This offends him, and he immediately walks off. While he's drinking coffee, a woman at another table tries to flirt with him, but he ignores it. He picks up an employment guide before reaching Heather's place and is excited to tell her something. But he finds a note explaining that she has left for New York to save her engagement with Will. He keeps calling her to ask her to come back, but she doesn't respond. He continues to stay in the house and feels lonely. When he runs out of food, he decides to go to the supermarket to try out samples, since he doesn't have any money. He runs into Christina, who reminds him about their affair, and offers to watch football with him again. Since she's very drunk and has a lot of beers, he offers to drop her home. When she gets sick in the car, he opens the door for her as she heads out to puke. Heather calls him back at the same time and asks if he's mad at her. She explains that she's not with her fiancé yet, and he keeps promising that they can make it work if she just comes back. In the middle of all his apologizes, Christina also comes back to the car, but Nikki doesn't let her until he can finish his talk with Heather. He keeps begging her to come back, and even promises that he will take a job and that they can get an apartment. But when their conversation is about to end, she hears Christina desperately knocking on the window, trying to get into the car. He clarifies she's just a friend he's trying to help out, since she's very drunk. But when she learns Christina also drives a Mercedes, which is the kind of woman Nikki usually goes after, she cuts the call. Christina is also pissed with his behavior and drives away in her car. When he hears Heather's roommate coughing, he knocks on her door to ask if she knows where Heather is. Eva is, as usual, very high, and doesn't know what she's saying or doing. When she has sobered up a little, Eva suggests that Nikki needs to make a proper commitment to Heather if he really wants to make things work. During their talk, Nikki also finds the envelope with the address in New York where Heather might be. As he plans to leave, Eva gives him a ring he can use to ask Heather to marry him. They reach Harry's place, who patches up with him and sponsors his ticket to New York. Nikki promises to pay him back, and they both wish him luck as he boards the flight. He soon finds Heather's building and knocks on her door. She's not too happy to see him and doesn't understand why he's there. He explains that nothing happened with Christina, and he wants an opportunity to talk to her. When she asks him to follow her inside, Nikki knows her house is great, but also thinks it's not real. He has been in this position too, and is sure Heather is not happy in her life. When he tries to kiss her, she wants him to understand the life they want to live with each other is not practical. It scares her that he's a dreamer and not a realist, and doesn't understand how hard it is to live with no money. He takes out the ring and knows it's not a diamond, but promises he can make her happy. He wants to spend the rest of his life with her, and asks her to marry him. But Heather is already married to Will, and she doesn't want to get divorced. She explains that this is the kind of luxurious life she wants, which she knows Nikki can't give her. When Will arrives, she pretends Nikki is the grocery boy and asks Will to give him some change. Nikki is numb and leaves the apartment, and somehow finds his way back to Los Angeles. He knows this city teaches everyone to dream, but it also made him humble. He now works as a delivery boy and brings groceries to Samantha's house. When he hands them over to her new partner, she asks how he's doing and wants him to take care of himself. In his new apartment, he gets food for the frog. He knows all heartbreakers like him coming to the city were always kept away from the harsh truth of how life becomes. He always knew he would end up there, but never imagined the circumstances.